Formally seconded. The spokesperson, Minister of State for Trade and International Development, Joe Costello, to respond to the debate.
Delegates, thank you very much for that lively debate on a number of the issues. And in relation to the first motion on 123, of course, I'd be very much in favour of that. There are serious issues of human civil rights in relation to dissension in China. And now that Ireland is strengthening its relationship with China through bilateral arrangements, the twinning of Dublin City with Beijing, and only 2 weeks ago we have established a strategic agreement with China. But interestingly, that strategic agreement covers a whole gamut of political and economic and cultural areas, but also it covers the area of human rights and the commitment to the Charter, the United Nations Charter, and working together both in conflict resolution and exploring and deepening human rights. So obviously this is an entree for Ireland to dialogue directly, bilaterally with China, as well as the dialogue that is on an ongoing basis, the EU dialogue that is continuing there. In relation to Syria, obviously the regime in Syria has been disgraceful in the killings, civilians, the maimings. People have been displaced. Tens of thousands of people have had to flee the country. And, of course, the regime have been totally irresponsible in that respect. Now, there is a ceasefire at the present time. Naturally enough, the international community is hoping that that continues. Good work done by Kofi Annan jointly with the United Nations and the Arab League. Ireland has already contributed $500,000 towards dealing with humanitarian aid. Naturally enough, we'll be looking at that closely again. My department will be looking at that very closely again in the context of the tens of thousands of displaced people, of the victims that are there. And also we are very much engaged in the Friends of Syria. The meeting were represented at the meeting in Turkey on the 1st of April. There will be a further one shortly in Paris, which will be looking at the situation again as to how the global community is going to respond, and we will be represented there as well. So I fully support that motion. In relation to the probably the most controversial motion here today, that is motion 126 on the Vatican, I would think the best thing for us to do with that motion, I would suggest, is to refer it back. But I'd like to give you what our position is as strongly as I can and as comprehensively as I can. And Deputy McNamara did give a considerable degree of that information, but I'd like to go somewhat further. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade made a submission to the Comprehensive Spending Review in July of 2011. And as you know, that was the review that was required by Brendan Howlin of all government departments before entering into the budget negotiations. Now, together with other restructuring, the department identified the embassies of the Holy See and Timor-Leste for closure. Later in the autumn, a third embassy, Iran, was added to the list. And this is contrary to some media reports that suggest that the Vatican was the last to be included. The combined savings from the three closures is estimated at $1.175 million in a full year. The lion's share of that saving, $845,000, comes from the closing of the Vatican embassy. Secondly, the embassy is not involved in the normal services provided by Irish embassies, such as consular services, trade promotion or development aid. The Secretary-General of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade has been appointed as the non-resident ambassador. This has been accepted by the Vatican, and he will present his credentials on the 4th of May. 7 other small European Union member states have no resident ambassadors to the Holy See: Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Estonia, Latvia, Luxembourg and Malta. And as well as that, Norway and Sweden have also non-resident ambassadors to the Holy See. The choice of missions for closure followed, as I said, a comprehensive review of the diplomatic network in which particular weight was given to the economic return from missions in these difficult economic times and the mission's role in rebuilding Ireland's reputation abroad. On the issue of co-location of missions to Italy and to the Vatican, the Holy See does not accept accreditation from a resident embassy that is also accredited to Italy. That is its position. It will not accept the appointment of the same person as resident ambassador to both states. Neither will it agree to a country operating its embassy to the Holy See from the same address as its resident embassy to Italy. This issue of operating our embassies to Italy and to the Holy See from the same premises has been raised with the Holy See and will be explored further. The decision to close the resident embassy to the Holy See will not be reversed in the immediate term. However, and that is a government decision, as the economic situation improves and in the context of the regular review of our diplomatic network, it may be possible to revisit the matter at some time in the future. If the Holy See were prepared to relax its current requirements so as to allow the state-owned Villa Spada to serve as a location for both our embassy to Italy and our embassy to the Holy See, that is something that could be taken into account in any future considerations. But that is not the situation, I hasten to emphasise, at the present time. So, in the circumstances that we have had an embassy there since 1929, in the circumstances that we did close the embassy on economic grounds, that I would suggest is the most appropriate thing, that we would refer it back and that it will be dealt with in due course in that respect. The other two motions, motion 127 in relation to ongoing waves of immigration from Ireland, and the suggestion, the proposal rather, that the Labour Party would legislate for voting rights for Irish passport holders abroad for a period of up to 10 years after leaving Ireland. There's a number of complexities with that, and I think that it is an appropriate matter for the Constitutional Convention, and indeed our President himself, on his visit to England, the only one of the candidates for presidency who did visit our immigrants abroad, did state that one of the things he wished to do was to establish a constitutional forum in which he would deal with the issue and get a discussion going on what is the most appropriate way to give rights and entitlements to our immigrants abroad. So again, I would suggest that that would be referred back for discussion in that and dealing with in that context. And finally, the motion on Northern Ireland. I'm very sympathetic to this motion. I'm somewhat reluctant to have a conference of a party in government condemning the budgetary decisions of another government and mentioning the Chancellor in person. However, it does refer very strongly to public sector unions, to workers' rights and enhancing those, so I think that we can accept this motion, or I would be proposing that we do accept this motion. And also to emphasise that it really is, we have to come to our conference here in Galway. We have debates in the Dáil virtually every single day of the week, every week. And a party that is in government in Northern Ireland have never brought this issue once to the attention of our Parliament, even though they are constantly condemning treatment of workers here in Ireland and pay and conditions here in Ireland, and constantly saying that we should have the same conditions north to south. They have never expressed any concern with the conditions that were articulated in those budgetary remarks by the Chancellor of the United Kingdom. In the same way as, of course, they have never expressed any concern about the €1,500 average household levy that is imposed in Northern Ireland. Delegates, I commend that motion.